Picture this. It's 8 p.m. and you're still at your desk, troubleshooting that project issue your team couldn't figure out. Meanwhile, your colleague who leaves at 5 p.m. sharp just got promoted to director. Frustrating, right? Here's what nobody tells you. If you're the smartest person in the room solving every problem, you'll never get promoted. I'm Mare Beyen, and after coaching managers across 150 plus Fortune 500 companies, I've seen this pattern destroy careers again and again. The managers who get promoted aren't the best doers. They're the best leaders. And there are 3 strategic changes that separate the two. Now, just before we dive in, let me be clear about what I mean by tactical manager. These are the people who are incredible at execution. They know every detail of every project. They're the go-to person when something breaks. And honestly, they're often the highest performers on paper. But here's the brutal truth. I've learned from thousands of coaching hours that being too good at your job can actually keep you from getting promoted. I call this not letting go, and it's the #1 promotion killer I see across every industry, from tech to manufacturing to government. The problem isn't your competence. The problem is that you're still thinking like an individual contributor when you need to think like a leader. Companies don't promote tactical managers because they can't scale leadership. They need someone who can multiply results through others, not someone who does everything themselves. This shift from tactical to strategic isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely essential for promotion. The 3 strategic changes, solution focused. So how do you break free from this tactical trap? Here are the 3 small changes you can make that will transform how you're perceived as a leader. #1, stop solving everything, start developing others. I had a client named David who was a director at a global manufacturing company. Brilliant guy, could solve any problem in minutes. But his team would line up at his office every morning like he was running some sort of a help desk. Sound familiar, right? Here's what we changed. Instead of giving answers, David started asking questions. When somebody came to him with a problem, he'd say, "Walk me through your thinking. How would you approach this?" Then he'd guide them to the solution rather than handing it over. The magic happened when David realized his job wasn't to be the smartest person in the room with all the answers. It was to make his team smarter. Within months, his team was solving problems independently, and senior leadership noticed that David was developing talent, not just managing tasks. Before I continue with my next 2 points, if you're dealing with a team that's too dependent on you right now and you want my help creating a specific plan to develop their independence while positioning yourself for promotion, I'm offering free strategy calls this week. Click the first link in the description to book yours. But that's it. Back to the video. Point #2, stop attending every meeting. Start delegating visibility. This one's huge, and most managers get it completely wrong. They think showing up to every meeting shows commitment. Actually, it shows you can't let go. I had another client who was attending 40 plus meetings a week. She felt indispensable, but her boss saw her as someone who couldn't prioritize or delegate. We created what I call a meeting heat map to identify which meetings actually needed her strategic input versus which ones she was just present for. Here's the framework. Ask yourself 3 questions before accepting every meeting invitation. First, am I the only person who can provide the input that's needed? Second, is this meeting critical to a decision that impacts my team's success? And third, would sending one of my directs actually give them valuable visibility and experience? That 3rd question is key. When you deputize team members for important meetings, you're not just freeing up your time, you're developing their leadership skills and giving them visibility with senior stakeholders. Your boss sees this as succession planning, which is exactly what directors and above need to demonstrate. Point #3, stop controlling outcomes, start coaching through failures. This is where most managers panic. But what if they mess up? Here's the reality. They will mess up, and that's exactly how they learn. I worked with a VP who was micromanaging every project deliverable. Her team was technically excellent, but completely dependent on her approval for everything. When I asked her what would happen if she got promoted tomorrow, She realized her team couldn't function without her, which is precisely why she wasn't getting promoted. We used my decode, design, deploy framework to shift her approach. Instead of controlling every outcome, she learned to decode the real obstacles her team was facing through coaching conversations, not status updates. She discovered that half their performance issues were actually unclear expectations or obstacles she could remove. Design solutions collaboratively. Rather than dictating the path forward, she'd facilitate planning sessions where her team co-created approaches. This built ownership and accountability naturally. Deploy with support, not control. She established check-in rhythms that focused on removing roadblocks rather than micromanaging progress. The breakthrough moment came when one of her direct reports made a costly mistake on a client project. Instead of swooping in to fix it, she coached him through the recovery process. He learned more from that failure than from 6 months of perfect execution under her direction. 3 months later, when that matrixed team member successfully led a similar project in her own department, her boss specifically mentioned her leadership capabilities in her performance review. Here's what these 3 minor changes really accomplish. You move from being seen as a high-performing individual contributor who happens to manage people to being seen as a strategic leader who multiplies organizational capability. That's the difference between getting stuck at the manager level and getting promoted to director and beyond. The Fortune 500 companies I work with that are dealing with AI transformations, mergers, and layoffs all need leaders who can scale. In other words, they need leaders who can navigate complexity while developing others. They don't need more people who can execute perfectly. They need people who can build systems and cultures that execute perfectly without them. Here's exactly what you can do this week to start making this shift. Number 1, start developing others. Pick one recurring problem that your team brings to you. This week, instead of solving it, turn it into a coaching conversation. Ask, what options do you see? And how would you handle this if I wasn't available? Let them walk you through their thinking, then guide them to the solution. Yeah, it takes longer initially, but you're investing in their capability. Number 2, delegate for visibility. Look at your calendar right now. Identify 3 meetings where you could send a team member instead. Choose someone who would benefit from the exposure. Brief them on the context and the outcomes you need. Then let them represent the team. Then have them follow up with you afterward to capture key decisions and learnings. This is how you train them to manage up to you while freeing your time for strategic work. Number 3, coach through challenges. The next time someone on your team faces a setback or makes a mistake, resist the urge to jump in and fix it. Instead, ask open-ended questions like, what do you think went wrong here? What would you do differently? What support do you need to move forward? Your role is to remove the obstacles and support them, not solve their problems. So there you have it, the 3 strategic differentiators that separate managers who get promoted from those who stay stuck solving everyone else's problems. Now you have 2 options. You can take everything I've shown you in this video and try to figure out how to apply it to your specific situation yourself, or you can click the first link in the description, book a free strategy call with me, and we'll decode exactly what's keeping you in tactical mode, design a personalized plan to make these changes, and create a deployment strategy that positions you for your next promotion.